All right. Oh, all right. Excited to be here. I've got the opportunity to share with you guys a little bit about branding today. My name is Joe Baker, and I would call myself, after all of the years of working on brands and marketing and design, that I could be a branding expert. And I brought Bill on. He's my kind of partner in crime. Together, we form Superhero Sidekick. And if I forget anything, he's going to remind me. And it also just feels better to give my presentation when we're filming it to somebody else. And so he's virtual. And man, this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
great to see everyone see everyone today.
and Bill, yeah, you're allowed to, if I miss anything, you let me know, okay? And we'll work together on that.
Will do.
But Bill's a big cheerleader, so he's a real big asset on this. So to start out, I want to talk to you about what a brand is, and it's easy to think about a brand in a lot of different ways. But I want you to start out by thinking the original brand, and the original brand, that kind of where we get the name brand, was back in the day. They would have cattle, and you'd have all these different cows from different ranches all kind of blending together on the range. And then you'd have to determine whose cows were whose. And so what they did was they literally took a hot iron rod and they would melt into the hide of the animals whose animals it was. And so that is actually what a brand is. And what I want you to think about is that that's actually what happens in the brain of somebody who starts following your brand. It like is literally like a burning into their mind, into that person's mind. And branding is one of the most important things that you will ever do. And it's one of the most costly things that you will do if you do it well. And rebranding is almost impossible, but I do help people all the time with rebranding as well. And so, because just imagine how hard it would be to rebrand a cow that you just branded. You know, it's kind of hard on him to rebrand him. So, yeah, I founded an organization called Save the Storks in 2011, and it quickly grew to be one of the largest pro-life nonprofits in the whole country. And that was just really fun to kind of take it from zero to, about $1 million a month, and to have this big impact and launch these mobile units all over America. Many of you guys know what we do, but one of the neat things about Storks is that because we weren't just a bus making manufacturer, but because we created a brand, we could branch into many other aspects of the pro-life movement and have a big impact there. And so that was always my focus, is that we wanted to be a brand that would actually infiltrate and impact the movement, something that young people could get their heart around and really follow us. And so we were definitely successful at that. One of the companies I'm building now is called Adventure Homes. And Adventure Homes actually just started with my own home. We would just rent it out whenever I would travel. And very quickly, we realized we got very good at this and very good at kind of taking care of people and serving people. That house that we live in is the top right one there. And originally we would just rent it out whenever we would travel. Well, very quickly, it got grew outside of that, and we actually had to move out of that house to another house, and we fixed that house up, and we started renting that whenever we would travel. And very quickly, that house started renting for way more than we could afford not to rent it out, and so we traveled again. And so we did that quite a few times, and we grew this company. But one of the things I learned in the process of this was that if you create a really strong brand, instead of just a personal vacation rental, you have people that say, you know what, when I come back to Colorado, I don't just want to stay anywhere. I want to stay in an adventure home. And that was really neat to see that we could actually really increase our occupancy rates, because, people wanted to stay with us, and they said, we just want to stay in a different house next year. And a lot of our guests, while they stay with us during the week, when they stay with us, will often book a house for the next trip while they're there, and they'll book a different one. And so I discovered that is the power of having a brand. and not just being a, a vacation rental. When we think about the value of a brand is really about those promises that we keep. And that's one of the reasons why I think people would always come back to us. It's about the deep promises that we tell them, and then they experience it, and it's life-changing for them. Now think about this, think about something like Coca-Cola. Every time you crack open a Coca-Cola, you expect to get the same delicious substance as last time, and if one time you were to get like pond water in your mouth after opening up a Coca-Cola, you would forever be tainted at that brand. Same thing's true with like Snickers. Imagine biting into Snickers and discovering that, a mouse had fallen into the Snicker maker, and you just bit off a mouse and a bunch of hair. If you did that one time, you would probably give up that company. And it's because there's a promise there that was made. And as long as that promise continues to be fulfilled, you will continue to go back to that product. For me, like when I go to get a new phone, I don't look at a single other phone in the store. I go and get another Apple iPhone. And the reason for that is because they have fulfilled their promises again and again. And their products haven't been perfect, but they've been almost perfect. And so really it's again and again, as long as they fulfill those promises, I continue to turn back to that brand. You guys remember in 2009, there was a particular phone that you weren't allowed to get on the airplane with. Do you remember this? And I remember I was doing a lot of traveling that year, and again, they would announce on the phone, they would say that, if you had this Galaxy phone or had one of their notebooks, that you weren't allowed on the airplane, because God forbid, if you were, the phone could literally light on fire and bring down the plane. And so fortunately, there was never a plane that was brought down, but because of a few unstable batteries, this company, basically the Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy, lost $211 billion just at the level of loss of their brand, not including all the products that had to be recalled. And it took a big hit. I mean, it's at one point they said it set them back a decade. And so just because some batteries went out and the promise was broke and the phone could catch on fire potentially, completely damaged this company's brand. And so it's so important that we fulfill our promises. And that's a lot of people, when they think about brand, they think they're talking about their logo, but really it's like you're talking about fulfilling your promises. That's the difference between a good brand and a great brand. That's one of the major differences. Now, when a lot of people invite me in to work on their brand, they think that I'm going to come in and just immediately start talking about their logo. But really the logo is just one component, and it's a very, very important component. But really when it comes to your brand, I want you to think about the deeper things. Now there's certain aspects of your brand that people see and experience, and then there's certain aspects of your brand that they actually experience on a deeper, more relational level. And those are the things that really matter the most in having a really strong brand. So when I start working on when someone invites me in to brand or rebrand them, the first thing I want to know is their story. You'll see that at the bottom there. I want to know, how did this thing come to be? Who was behind it? Who was the founder? What were they thinking? What were they going through? What problem were they trying to solve? And then out of that story, usually there's a point where the founder begins to have a vision for a different world. And I need the founder or at least the CEO to cast that vision of what is the vision of the different world we want to create. And then out of that vision, somewhere there forms a mission. Okay, well, this is our mission and how we're going to fulfill, try to make the world in a different way, in the way that we envision it. And then it's out of that mission that we begin to form these deep core values, things that like, are just profoundly true about our company, where if anybody violates these things, everybody feels it. It's like sometimes the core values, actually often the core values aren't even written down, but when they're violated, it, within the company. And so then out of those core values within the company, this strategic plan kind of forms. It's like you have a mission statement, core values, and a strategic plan, and you begin to put together, okay, well, this is our specific plan for this year, and in this quarter, or it's like you begin to put together that plan of attack. It's out of these things together as a foundation that then you begin to form your brand promises. Like I was saying about what people expect when they open up your soda. You have these deep promises that people begin to expect about you as a company. And then out of that, you have an internal company culture. And it's like, what is that like to work within your company? What kind of people do you have? What's unique about them? What kind of people do we hire? It's like when you have a company culture and it's defined, you're very cautious about who you hire. When it's undefined, it just kind of you form a culture without really thinking about it. And it's way better to define that, in my opinion. And then it's out of all of that then a subculture forms. And that's really kind of think of the people that when the new iPhone comes out, that wrap around the building or camp out just to get in it. That's the subculture. That's what kind of subculture are you building? What do your followers expect, and how are they then interacting with each other? And in the same way with Storks, it was all about building a movement of people and helping them to come together, and kind of be weird together, to be kind of a part of this thing together that was unique, and the more that we can develop that subculture, the stronger the brand's going to be. And then really above the waterline are things like, what is your tagline, and what is your name? What is the look and feel of your, your color scheme, and the feel of your website? Is it cold or is it warm? A lot of those questions, like about what they actually see when they go to you, are filled there. And then what is your logo? And so there's a lot we could dig into there, hours and hours of material, but really I want to focus in on a high level version of this. And so from there, let's talk a little bit about logo. Now, when it comes to a logo, you want a logo that's, in my opinion, it's very clean and it's simple. I recommend logos that are just two colors, black and white kind of color. When I say two colors, that don't have a lot of busyness going on. And these here are a few of my favorite company brands and some of my favorite, company logos. The top left one there is Black Diamond. That's the rock climbing brand that we kind of trust our lives with, and so it's a simple, clean, great logo. And notice how all these logos break away from the words. So it's, a lot of times people will take a logo and you'll look at it and it's like, it has to have the words for the logo to work. And I'd recommend, if you want to become a big, strong brand, you have to create a logo that's going to break away, that can have, can just be on an app on the iPhone and people know what it is. And so as you're developing the logo, that I recommend simpler is better. You don't have to have every, whole bunch of aspects of your organization in that logo. You just need like one or two, and if the logo does reach down and come out of the story, that's best. But you just need a simple and clean and articulate logo. That's what I'd recommend. So now a lot of people ask me about naming organizations. And so what we like to do is we like to do what's called the brand stress test. And the reason why we do this naming stress test is because it's not arbitrary. It's like a way in which we can actually know why one great name is over the others, and we have a way to kind of score them, to feel them out. So we were working with one client, and he has an awesome ministry. I'll actually recommend it. His name is John Amachuco. And we were trying to pick the right name for his organization. And the name we really all loved was this name, erasism, because it has the words racism and in it, but it's erasism. And his company was really about showing that CRT in public schools is really a kind of racism and still really is harmful. And he also was showing the link between racism and abortion. And so very interesting set of concepts. And so we like this name, erasism. But some of the other names on the whiteboard, after spending a couple hours just jotting down names and really kind of diving into the name, experiences, we also like this name, abort CRT, and the last name was colorblind. And so we decided to rate them side by side. And so the first one is URL availability, which was really awesome that all three of these names were actually available, but they were available at different prices. The first one, erasism, was available for $15,000. And then the second one was $10, and the third one was $40,000. So big sway in those. Now we could negotiate some of those down, but we were just glad that they were available. Okay, the second piece of it, number 2 there, is defensibility. And abort CRT was totally easily trademarkable because nobody's ever used that or even thought about using that in history. Colorblind had many trademarks to it, but colorblind is actually a word. And so it's kind of hard to fully trademark a word. You have to trademark that around a specific sector of the market. And if you're working with a trademark attorney, they'll tell you it's like lots of people can use colorblind for different things. Whereas the word erasism was actually a word, or it was actually a new word that we thought we created. The problem was somebody else created it. And though they never bought the domain names for it, they had trademarked it. And they were actually, not friendly to what we were working on, at least in what the online presentation was. And so we realized that that erasism failed the defensibility test, and that was a big one. So it failed there. Okay, the next question is, how hard is it to say? Erasism, abort CRT, colorblind, all of them are actually pretty easy to say. I'd say the hardest out of the 3 of them is probably abort CRT. But we gave a 10 for all of them. How hard is it to spell? We thought they were all really easy to spell, and that anybody that passed 4th grade should be able to spell those. How many syllables does it have? The colorblind had colorblind had the best on that, but all of them were pretty fine on the syllables. I have an example on my if you let's say your company is the Montana Architectural Learning Center, or something like that. That would have a lot of syllables. It's really hard to spell. It's hard to remember, versus something like colorblind or racism, just short and sweet. I just made up that other one, by the way. Okay. You have to ask, does the name ever get in the way of itself? It's an important question. Because we also talked about another name, like erasist. That name could kind of get in the way of itself. It's kind of like it comes with some connotation already. It comes with it's difficult to find the meaning of some things. And so sometimes we might come up with a name, but that name sounds very, let's say right wing or Donald Trump or something like that. There's certain words that kind of already come with, with a lot of meaning, and that kind of blends into the next one too. Is it an empty vessel? Actually, I think I'd even change these a little bit, because erasism, when I look at the number there, erasism would be an empty vessel. Like maybe we scored that a little lower because it has the word racism in it, but it's a pretty empty vessel. It's something that we can kind of infuse meaning and create the meaning of it. Abort CRT, you know, is a little less than an empty vessel because it has the word abort in it and it has CRT in it. And so you immediately kind of like gravitate to try to figure out what those things are. And then colorblind, I get it here. Colorblind is a 9 because, you know, colorblind really is something that, you know, it's you know it's a word, but we don't really know that what it has to do with yet or how it fits. And so we can if it's a word with an empty vessel, we can infuse our own meaning into it, which makes it a lot easier to build a brand. You know, like, you know, it's like the name Trump. Like it comes with a lot. It's not an empty vessel anymore. It comes with all sorts of pieces of Donald Trump's history. And so now it comes with a lot of heavy stuff with it. You know, so if you had the word Trump somehow in your brand idea, that wouldn't be an empty vessel. All right, next one is, does it have a good brand play? You know, are there ways we could just, you know, come up with other fun ideas with it? Like with Storks, we had, you know, save the flock campaign, or save a flock campaign, and we had the Stork Ball, and we had the Flyway conference, and a flyway was the way that birds flew together. You know, it was full of like just like bounding like brand play, and that's ultimately what you want. So if you look at these words, you know, colorblind actually has the most brand play of the 3 of them, but all of them are okay on the brand play. Abort CRT would have the least of the 3. And out of that, you know, out of that brand play, you could actually begin to build a whole lifestyle brand. You could actually build like, you know, a company of like you know, people want to wear. And so that's an interesting concept too. So you want to look at each of your ideas and see how that rates. The next one's an interesting one that is one of my favorite ones. It's called the phonographic loop. And it's the reason why certain words kind of stick in our mind. It turns out we have this filter. It's an auditory filter that when we hear certain things, they stick in our mind for a few seconds. Now, the stronger the word with the phonographic loop, the more it sticks in our mind. So it's the reason why we remember things like junk in the trunk, which was actually came out of it was like a hip hop term when I was a kid. You know, that just wouldn't have been as sticky if it said stuff in the trunk, you know. And if you think about Marilyn Monroe, she was very, very famous, you know, one of the most famous models of all time and actors. But would she have been as famous with her normal name, which was Norma Jean Baker? You know, that just doesn't roll off your tongue like Marilyn Monroe. And so the phonographic loop is really important to think about. Great companies think about this, like Coca-Cola has a number, if you listen to it, it almost has a rhythm to it that sticks in your mind. And so you want to think about that as you're working on this and grade it based on how strong and sticky it is. And there's actually some great seminars on YouTube about the phonographic loop, if you want more on that. And then the last question is how much does the CEO like it? And this is an important question. I like to have it on the board because it isn't the end all question. It's not like, you know, because sometimes you rate all of this stuff and at the end the CEO says, well, I still like this one. Well, this is their shot to like alter the score by 10 points, you know? And in our case, John really liked erasism. He kind of liked the word CRT, and then colorblind was the one he didn't like. And if you see what happened there is the abort CRT won at 78, and that's the name we went with. One of the main reasons we went with abort CRT though is because it didn't have defensibility, and that made it fail. And so you're going to see that company within the next year come online and have a big impact. But you can see how this kind of model of testing and having an actual test could help your organization, actually reasonably go through a number of names and test them in a way that everyone can participate and bring clarity of which name is the best. So once you have a name that you really like, the first thing is that defensibility test. And you just go to this website, uspto.gov, and you can put in any name you're trying to find, and it will tell you about the trademarks. If it has any trademarks on the name you want, you will want to talk to an attorney, and we can help connect you with one of those if you want. And it's not that expensive. It usually costs, about $1,000. I think it's like maybe $1,100 or something like that to trademark a name with an attorney. You can also try to do it yourself. It just depends what you want to do. It costs about, $300 or $400 to do it yourself, or about $1,100 to do a single name with your attorney. And so I would recommend just getting it trademarked and moving on to the more exciting parts of it. So the next part is developing a logo. And the biggest problem in developing a logo is that a lot of people will go to a design company and they'll pay them an absurd amount of money. Oftentimes they pay them like between $10,000 and $20,000 for a logo, but they don't give them any information. They don't give them enough information. And my experience is that I end up with those clients. They come to us and they say, yeah, we spent all this money, we don't really like our logo. And so what the process I take them through is I take them to Pinterest, and we spend a few hours, like at least 3 hours, sometimes more, just looking at designs and pinning boards of what we really like. And so let me show you how that works here. So I'll take you over here. Hey, Bill, is this still working? Can everybody see my screen still?
Yes. Yeah, you're doing great.
All right, cool. So this is Love Life's board that we worked on, and we looked at all these different designs. We were interested in this cupcake idea for a bit. We had a lot of different concepts and designs that people liked, but the one that really stuck was this heart right here. And that really got everybody's attention. And so it took us about 3 hours before we found that heart and got really excited about what it could be. And then let me just show you their website here. We rebranded the company, and this is the new look and logo for Love Life. And I think it came out really well, but it was because we spent all that time. And then it was actually very cheap to make the logo because we had spent all the time. We just had to pay the artist, for a couple hours of work once we had the concept. Here's another one we have here. This is, I wanted to make a little website for my son. And after I spent some time on Pinterest, I found some of these designs. I really like these silhouettes. You can see like this silhouette here of this guy. Here, I'll zoom in here a little bit, hanging off the cliff here. Looks like he kicked a rock off. And then I'll show you Sam's website today. There we go. Here it comes. And you'll see the logo is up here. You can see this logo. That's dad and son hanging off a cliff. And this is Sam's website. We're developing our little boy to be the youngest to climb El Capitan. And so we decided to make a website about it. But yeah, as you can see how that came out of that Pinterest board, with these kind of concepts, and I didn't know what I wanted until I spent a lot of time just kind of hunting on Pinterest to kind of then show. Okay, so let me back to my presentation here. So then once you developed a logo, it's time to make some really awesome products. And one of the things that really irks me about products is that people often make cheap products. And I highly recommend not making cheap products, because cheap products really hurt your brand. So if you're going to make t-shirts, don't don't get Gildan t-shirts because they're $4 or $3 each before printing. You want to get the really good ones that people want to wear. You know, they literally have a term called scratchy t-shirts, which is what you get. You know, they don't last long. They put them, you wash them a couple times with cheap t-shirts, and they're just not, they don't fit right anymore. You know, get good t-shirts with great fabrics, you know, and put them on extra money in. Invest in great pieces of swag, because you want to put, you want people not just to, you know, to wear your shirt once in a while. You want them to love wearing your shirt. You want it to be like their favorite shirt. And wherever you put it, you want to find ways to kind of get it in front of your donors. And at Storks, we came up with all sorts of things. We did Storks socks and Stork hats and Stork shirts. And at one point we did Stork leggings, and we did Stork necklaces, and Stork keychains, and Stork bracelets. And so once our brand was really strong, we could do all of these things. We did them all on really great products. My favorite product was the Stork bow tie, which I still wear to this day. And many other people do too. And so once you get a great logo, just put it everywhere. I mean, I put it, we wrapped cars with it. And I mean, it's on my suitcases, literally like everything I owned began to have a Stork logo on it. And well, you really know you have a solid brand when somebody's willing to tattoo that on themselves. And so that was actually a pretty neat thing. At some point, we had many different young people show us that they had Stork tattoos. I was always too scared to get one, but pretty much, it was a pretty big mark when we saw that people would do that. And so with all that, I want to tell you guys just again, there's a little typo there, but your brand is the single most important investment. Here, I'll just fix it live for you here, that you can make in your business. And I just want to challenge you to take the time, you know, invest in your brand, you know, and put as much you know, effort as you can into it. You know, there's no hurry in coming up with a name or a logo, and we would be glad to help you. That's what we do. We are here at Heart. We're going to be at Heartbeat, sharing with centers about how we can significantly grow them. And one of the ways that we grow your organization is by helping you really focus in and look at your brand. With that, we're going to go to question and answer. All right.